I've been told for a while now that I should put some of my stories on the internet, and so here we go. This is stupid things that happened to me, part one, I guess. I worked at a little independent Harley Davidson shop, and it had a long hallway that you could look right down, right down through the middle of the shop, from the sales area into the back of the shop where the mechanics were. I was working alone on a lowered softail. I don't think it was anyway, on a lowered softail. So the bike sits really up and down, right? It's supposed to lean quite a bit, but you lower it, now it doesn't lean as much. I was doing a fork oil change. I let the fork oil out of the left side. It was like nothing happened. I was sitting on the floor, cross-legged. I let the fork oil out of the right side, and I looked up and thought, is the bike moving? Is it moving? And about the third time I said, is it moving, it fell on me because the front end had collapsed a little bit, and it just leaned over. It was just, right? It's like, where's it? It's supposed to be leaning like really hard. It's up. When the fork oil came out of it, it really leaned up over and fell on me. So I'm pushing the bike back, push the bike back. My boss used to also tell me, Johnny, if it falls over, throw yourself under it. And literally, I was under the bike when it fell over. So, and I'm starting to get the softail up again, right? And this guy up in the front, he looks over down this little hallway and says, you know that little guy in the back? I think he needs help. And so they both came rushing to me. They pulled the bike completely up and put it back on the kickstand, which I had it most of the way up, but I don't think I could have got it all the way up without them. So from that time on, my motorcycle name was Tippy, which you don't get to choose your motorcycle name, right? I'm working at another shop, and it was just me and my boss. And I had to answer the phone and run the cash register. I can't tell you how many times running the cash register we made $1 million simply because don't know how to run the cash register. So I answered the phone and I said, hello, CBS Motorcycle. And the guy on the other end of the phone was like, what? He couldn't even talk. He was totally dumbstruck. And then he asked for my boss, and I said, oh, yeah, I'll get him. So I got him, and I think I must have had to run parts or something. I ran parts, so I was gone from the shop for maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. I can't remember what I was doing. I come back to the shop, and my boss says, Johnny, did you answer the phone? And I said, well, yeah, don't you remember? There was a guy who called for you. And I said, why? He said, that guy, he came running to the shop. He said, 20 minutes after you hung up, he came running to the shop, and he says, hey, where is she? Where is she? And he says, who are you talking about? He goes, that girl on the phone with the sexy voice. So ever after that, my boss would say, Johnny, answer the phone like a man. I'm like, I am a man. I was putting in a bearing in a clutch basket. I was using a little 20-ton press, the kind you get from Harbor Freight. So it's not bolted to the floor. It was just, like what AVE calls a home gamer type of a Harbor Freight 20-ton press. Right, I'm looking at the focused on the clutch pack, or not the clutch pack, but the inner and outer piece of the clutch, watching the bearing, and I just happened to look up to see a piece of metal stock that my boss had put on the top of the press coming down on my face. I just had enough time to squint and move my head a little bit, and bink, I think it hit me right here in this eyebrow. And I was like, oh, and I waited for a little bit, oh, I'm okay. And the blood just running all of down my face. I look like some kind of an extra from a slasher film, or maybe nowadays maybe a zombie movie. There was blood all over the place, and my boss, oh man, he grabs me, by the shoulders because I'm not coordinated enough to close the one eye and open the other eye. And I said, where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? He goes, I'm going to take you to the vet. Like, what? You're taking me to the vet? Yeah, I'm taking you to the vet. She said if we ever needed stitches, she's just around the corner. She'd fix us up at any time. Like, no, don't take me to the vet. Right? I'm worse than your dog, right? Don't take me to the vet. Like, no. Just give me a minute. I'll be fine. And after a couple of minutes, I clotted, and then it was no big deal. But that was the day I almost got taken to the vet to get stitches. This actually happened when I was at the dealership. You know what? When a customer calls, don't ever give them a joke answer because they'll do it. It's not easy to get the starter out of a Softail. I'm talking about Evolution. I can't remember how it is on the twin cam. Everything's Evolution because that's when I was working from 91 till about 97. But anyway, this guy calls and he says, I'm having a hard time getting the starter out of my Softail. And the mechanic goes, you got to turn it upside down, and it's much easier to get to the bolts that way. Why? Why would you tell somebody that? I mean, that's just stupid. Anyway, we get a call a couple hours later. I got the bike on the side, but I just can't get it fully upside down. Poor guy. Why would you turn your bike upside down? So I whatever it was, we had the guy come in and we gave him something for free. I want to say it was a set of like mini apes because I think he bent the handlebar. But whatever it was, when you're talking to a customer on the phone, don't joke with him. Don't joke in that way. I don't want this to be an hour long, so I'll tell you one more story. I had a Sportster, a 1200 Sportster. I want to say it was a 91. It was the first year for the 5-speed. And I was pretty hard on it. I was also really an aggressive rider. I was coming back. I live in Southern California. I was coming back from San Diego, which is about, say, 4 or 5 hours. If you're going really fast, it might be less than 4 hours. And I would come back, it's called the 215. It's coming kind of the back, what would be the back way, because the 405 and the 5 freeway is closer to me. But I would come back that way because it's a little less crowded. And I would get onto the freeway again in Lancaster and Palmdale, not too far away from where I live in Rosemond. And the freeway is in a ditch. So when you come on the on-ramp, you're elevated and you're going down, right? Well, I was leaned over so far. I love to see sparks come off the bottom of the bike. I'm a really aggressive rider as I was. I went through something. I don't know what it was that I went through. But I went through something, and the front wheel made it, but the rear wheel didn't. It slipped. And so I'm kind of trying to save it. I don't want to wipe out in the dirt. So the bike doesn't fall over, but now the arc of my turn is way bigger than the on-ramp. I would have to go off of the road, in through the air, and then come back to the road if the arc, right, because my arc is so big. So I thought, well, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I thought, I'll lift the bike straight up and down. I'm using the wrong hand. The straight up and down, all right, and then I'll apply full brakes, and then I'll dirt bike it down this embankment. I don't know why I thought that was going to work. So I lift the bike straight up, and I hit a paddle marker. The little metal pieces that have the reflectors on them, I hit one of those. I don't remember leaving the motorcycle. But apparently that's what happened, because I do remember dirt sky, dirt sky, dirt sky, dirt sky flying through the air, and I landed in the middle of the freeway. So this whole embankment, apparently I missed, and I ended up in the middle of the freeway. So lucky that I didn't land on somebody. Like imagine me, on your windscreen. Like, get that guy off. Anyway, so I landed in the middle of the freeway. I'm checking myself. Am I dead? Am I not dead? Am I going to get run over? And that was really my first thought. So I looked to one side, and just like a car race, maybe not a drag race, but maybe the beginning of a Formula One or NASCAR where they're all lined up. All the traffic had stopped and they were lined up and waiting for me. So I got up, the bike actually had flown over me and to the one side, and it ended up in the median, the dirt median in between the freeway. So I got up, and slowly this guy comes, rolling up to me. He rolls down his window and he looks at me and he says, "I've never seen nothing like that before." Like I had some kind of show, right? Yeah, thank you. Come to my 6 o'clock. Anyway, so he said, "Can I take you to the hospital?" And I said, "No, I feel okay." And but I said, "If you could take me back to the other side of the road," because I knew that once traffic started, I'd never be able to get back to the call box, which is on the other side, right by the slow lane. So I go over to the slow lane. I've never used a call box before. I had no idea. So I pick up the phone and I say, "Hey, I want a landline. I want to call my parents to see if they can come and get me." No, basically when you call the call box, it's like 911. You can get an ambulance, you can get a tow truck, or you can get a police officer. Ambulance, yeah. And I said, "Well, I don't need an ambulance. I can't afford a tow truck because I wasn't making that much money. What about a police officer to take me home?" Okay, so I laid down and on the embankment of the road, and I waited and I waited. And because I had a Harley jacket on, a bunch of people actually slowed down and said, "Hey man, do you need any help?" I'm like, "No, I'm waiting for my policeman." It probably wasn't more than about 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Where is my policeman? I can't believe that there isn't somebody here already." So I pick up the call box and "Where's my policeman?" Well, when you pick it up again, it's just like dialing 911 again. So they didn't know who I was or what I was asking for. After a little while later, I did have a policeman pick me up. He says, "Do you want a police report?" I'm like, "No, it was just me and the motorcycle got hurt." So he took me home and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, about 20 minutes before I tow your wreck of a bike, I had to take it all apart." Anyway, the last story was my back from my shoulder blades down to my waist was one huge blood blister. And the only thing I can think of is that when the bike stopped, that the bike, levered and actually hit me somehow and threw me over. So it wasn't I went over the handlebars, went down the embankment, and then landed in the freeway. I think it actually hit me. And anyway, I was rolling the whole time. I got really lucky. I hurt my palm. I tore a tendon. I got a couple of rocks, but I had my full jacket, full helmet, gloves, and it ended up being okay. But stupid things happen to me.